Imagine, if you can, an experienced podcast host that naively thought no other show had the title Horror Business, a land where not taking that extra time to research cost hours of monotonous toil. This episode of Blood, Guts, and Blu-Ray that you are about to hear is the pilot, but they will be stupidly referring to themselves as Horror Business. And though things seem to be going well, they all come undone when Bloodbath later finds out that there is a show with the same name that did nearly the same thing. And that's when the real horror began.
So fucking stupid to think that another group of guys wouldn't put together a horror show using the title of one of the most popular Misfit songs. It's 2016, get the net.
I know you gentlemen have been through a lot. And when you find the time, I'd rather not spend the rest of this winter tied to this fucking couch!
You're hit. You're bleeding, man.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Let me in, you little shit! Let me in! Let me in! Let me in! Let me in!
Coming to you undead from Elm Street in fictional Haddonfield with a beautiful view of Crystal Lake, the podcast where every day is Friday the 13th and every night is Halloween. You are listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-Ray with your hosts Bloodbath and Brett667, the neighbor of the beast.
Thank you for listening, and welcome to the first installment of Horror Business. Hopefully this is the first of many. My name is Bloodbath.
I'm Brett667, the neighbor of the beast.
Before we go too far ahead, just want to take a second to thank my wife Kristen for doing our intro, our outro, and our interludes. She did a great job. Also want to thank Bruce Tedford for helping us out with some of these designs. Bruce is an old friend of mine who I'm sure we're going to hear from at some point in the event that Brett or I have a scheduling conflict, or if he decides not to be so shy. Door's always open for him to make the show a trifecta. So just to give you guys a little background, Horror Business is a fanboy podcast. What does that mean? Well, Brett nor myself are involved in the movie business at all. We are not. We've never written a script or been in anything. We've never really even done anything amazing with our lives. We're just two big fans of the genre. We're both New Jersey natives, but neither of us live in New Jersey anymore. We went to college together. We were roommates for a time after college, and when we lived together, we basically were broke, and we would just sit around, watch every on-demand movie that we could, but after a while, we'd end up watching these low-rent B films and art films and exploitation films, and it turns out we both have an appreciation for them. So this podcast is basically just an excuse for us to shoot the shit about horror films that we love and hate. So right now, our format's loose. We're going to talk about some movies. 4 today, actually. But we're not going to do it in a contrived, scummy, pretentious way. We're just going to walk through each film wittingly or not, spoiling it for you. So sorry if that happens. But if you haven't seen it yet, sorry. The good thing is if you're listening to the show, you probably have already seen a lot of these movies that we're going to talk about. And if you haven't, then maybe we can help you find your new favorite movie or another movie to laugh at. I guess it all depends. But Brett and I, we're not experts at all. We're just nerds, so don't take us too seriously. Think of us as two jerks with some wild opinions from time to time. And we do take requests. So if you think we should talk about a movie, hit us up on social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. We have a Tumblr as well. You can email us at horrorbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. Tell us what you think. Ask us questions. Call us names. We will get back to you. Brett, how are you this fine Friday?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Finally happy to talk about these movies, the good, the bad, and the fucking awful, actually, to be honest with you.
The good, the bad, and the Troll Hunter.
And the Troll Hunter, precisely.
So I think fittingly, the first film that we're going to talk about is The Predator. It's directed by John McTiernan. It came out in 1987. Body count is about 70. though most of that's from the battle scene that takes place in the beginning part of the movie. The budget for it was somewhere between $15-18 million, and it was a box office smash. It earned $98.3 million, which is incredible.
Fantastic.
So, you want to give us a run through? You want to get your voice on here and tell us a little synopsis of what this is about?
Well, it's going to be very basic, obviously, but a team of highly trained. Were they Navy SEALs, or what was their distinction?
I don't.
Or they didn't really go.
Think that, I don't think they made any distinction other than Carl Weathers, the guy who played Apollo Creed. He works for like the CIA now. That's the only one that. All you know is that they're special forces operatives, and they keep saying that over and over again. So
okay, so they're dudes that wear vests open that show off their perfect abs and giant pectoral muscles, and they're coming in for missing some people, and basically run across an alien life form that absolutely decimates these extremely well trained individuals. And as they're trying to fight away from it, get away, escape, find out more information, they also do take a native captive. Leads up to an ending scene that's iconic, and a creature that can never be forgotten, and is to this very day still a very loved animal that became more and more complex as future iterations made it.
That has bright green blood.
and a self-destruct. Bright green blood and a self-destruct button.
The blood, so as I was reading up on this, the blood was made from Mountain Dew and glow stick. Which I think is awesome. That a $15 million movie had to employ Mountain Dew and glow stick. So the thing with this movie, it's kind of always been, it's one of the, I guess, one of the first horror movies that I had really ever seen that I wanted to see. Like, I'd already seen Terminator, and I'd seen a bunch of other Schwarzenegger movies, and like The Kid Next Door had this movie, and he's like, yo, we gotta watch this. And ever since then, like, it's one of those movies that every time it's on, I'll watch it from wherever it's at and finish it until the end. The special effects in this are fucking amazing. And like everything looks real. The skinned up bodies in the beginning, they look brutal.
Oh, beautiful.
Oddly enough, Arnold Schwarzenegger is the best actor in this movie.
You know what's funny when you say that? Actually, in my notes is, I wonder if they realized that they were going for campy or whether they were going for serious, because Arnold Schwarzenegger is by far the most believable character in this entire film, and that kind of frightens me to my core.
Well, the thing is too, like, the immediate reviews on this thing were like, it's so derivative, it's campy, it's got, just like you said, and all the people who say that, they just don't fucking get it, because the coolest part about this film is the violence, the Predator itself, and the special effects. That it makes the whole movie. It's what the movie is all about. So I feel like when when word gets out about like a big budget, you know what I mean? And it's not Oscar worthy, then all of a sudden it's not good. And I think that this movie it's a good movie. It's not the best horror movie ever, but it's a good movie, and it's just got to take it for what it is. It is campy, it is derivative. It's got a ton of action, it's got mystery, it's got legit scares, and the most high-tech monster ever, who apart from being from another planet, there's like nothing supernatural about him. He's just technologically way more advanced. And it's supposed to be, the same way like a human hunter is to other animals, the Predator is to the human. You know what I mean? It's fun. I think that gets characterized most in the part where like the Predator is listening to what they're saying. And he, like, it sounds like what you hear like when your dog barks or something. Like it's almost like drabble, you know what I mean? He can't decipher anything that they're saying. His language is like way more advanced.
You're absolutely right. He hears something that it's not like, oh, listen to the complex language of the human race. It's almost clicks and chirps pretty much.
And but there's some fucking stupid parts in this movie too. I mean, first off, let's talk about like all the pussy jokes, which are just the lamest ever.
That guy with the glasses has the worst and best jokes simultaneously throughout that entire movie because I laughed and cringed at how bad they were.
He's directing the new one.
Is he really?
So he's a writer. I think he wrote like some of the Lethal Weapon movies, if I'm not mistaken. And he hold on one second.
And he tells him to like Billy, like he tells him to the most serious characters in the movie, which I think is a joke in itself.
Yeah, and they're just so cringeworthy. Like, you described it perfect because they're so cringeworthy. You're like, oh. Like, if anybody ever said that to me in public, I'd be like, oh, really, man?
Yeah.
And then there's the other part where they're, they see like the silhouette, I guess we'll call it. The invisible silhouette of the predator like run into the woods, and they just fire off a ton of rounds for like 3.5 minutes.
That would be Jesse Ventura just fires off that Gatling gun for a solid 3 minutes into a bush.
Right, and then the black dude does the same thing, and it just doesn't make any sense because do you have unlimited ammo? I don't think you do. And if it just seems like you're giving away, you're definitely, it definitely knows where you are now. If it wasn't sure before, it definitely knows. So one of the things I think that makes this movie particularly scary is that it goes almost an hour before you actually even see the predator monster. Mm-hmm. And then when you see it, it looks like some Rastafarian, I don't know. But every time I see it, I'm like, wow, like what the fuck is that? You're like trying to figure it out and dissect it. I think is part of what makes this great, because every time I watch this movie, every single time, I'm blown away by how realistic the monster is and how, like, it's a real person. It's not like a puppet or it's not a CGI effect or anything. It was a guy in a suit, but the way they made that suit look so real, like you believe that monster exists.
Well, one of the things I love about it is, excuse me, like you said, the whole shink noise that his eyes make when he glows, when he keeps spotting everybody. I'm like, when I first saw this when I was a kid, I'm like, this thing is going to look so fake and so terrible. And then you see this cross between, as you said, a Rastafarian, a bulldog, and an anglerfish. And anybody who hears that, who hasn't seen The Predator, is like, that's got to be fucking awful. But for some reason, it works, and it's so realistic to this day and age. I can't really pick too many movies that I still can't say The Predator looked better and looked more real, as goofy as the concept is.
So, in my opinion, the Predator looks more real than the Alien does in Alien.
That I agree with.
Do you know who was... so, again, researching to talk about this movie a little bit more, some of the fun facts. Do you know who was originally cast to play the Predator?
No, who?
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
No way.
He quit after 2 days because he... the suit was fucking hot.
That was my first guess.
And he was not happy that his face would not be seen in the movie, that it would be the Predator monster face.
Well, he was pretty high profile at that time, so I can understand that.
1987, the mandibles, the weird sideways teeth, that was James Cameron's idea. Because I guess he was on a flight with the guy that was like designing, or with some people that were involved in the production. I'm not really sure. And he's like, you know what? If I could have done it differently, maybe I would have made the alien have I would have made another alien and it had like sideways mandible teeth, and they were like, oh, that's a good idea, and then they basically borrowed his idea.
Borrowed.
Yeah. But the outfit was apparently fucking terrible. So the guy who ended up playing it is he's like 7 feet tall. His name is Kevin Peter Hall, and the outfit apparently was terrible. It was super hot. He couldn't see in it, so he would have to rehearse the parts without the mask and then do the take totally blind. Like, he would have to count his steps and his movements and stuff. He ended up like hitting Arnold in the face a bunch of times when he wasn't supposed to. It weighed a ton. All the actors complained. I say a lot if you haven't noticed. All the actors complained about during the shooting, the whole thing takes place on like an incline. So their legs and their backs were all sore by the end of it. And these are like all fit dudes. You know what I mean?
Oh, they're jacked.
The water that they were like running around in was stagnant, full of leeches and fucking snakes and shit. It's like, they said it was like survival training to get through this. I think that's wild. But aside from some stupid parts, which is like, I guess what makes it campy or derivative or whatever, there's also some fucking amazing lines in this movie too.
Oh my god.
From Arnold, from Jesse the Body, from the Sonny Latham, I think is the guy, the long-haired guy's name.
Billy, Billy, the character Billy.
Yeah,
he's
the
great.
one that doesn't laugh.
Yeah.
Or he does laugh, and the alien, the Predator copies his laugh at the end.
Yep.
But like, there's something in those trees. Like, like, there's some fucking iconic lines. Like, I don't have time to bleed. Well, do you have time to duck? Like, I mean, obviously, if it bleeds, we could kill it. What was the other one? The pussy jokes.
I'm here.
This guys are acting like a bunch of slack-jawed faggots or whatever Jesse the Body says. Another thing I like about this movie a lot is the score that backs it. It's like a World War II. It's like a black and white World War II film. I thought that was pretty cool.
Do you know who the composer was?
I don't.
Yes, I do actually, and it was Alan Silvestri, and he is the guy that made the fantastic soundtrack for Forrest Gump.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so he made the da 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 da, but he actually picked all those fantastic songs, which Forrest Gump has an amazing soundtrack. So when he came up on the credits, I was like, okay, the music is going to be phenomenal in this movie, and I was not disappointed.
One question though, maybe you can answer this. But why is that one guy always shaving? Did you pick up on that? Because that's always like one thing I've always picked up and tried to figure out, and I think it's really funny that he gets like lasered to the face.
Yeah.
That'll remove all your hair. But I just don't understand why he was shaving.
Every single time they stopped, you're right. He always had the straight razor. Was always taking care of his face. Maybe that's a joke that's escaped in its years, but you're right.
The last thing, like I guess maybe this time watching it just to talk about it for this show, I always like wondered to myself like why, part of the reason why this is so scary is because you never really ever get a concrete reason as to why the Predator is even on the planet. Did he crash land on accident? Is it survival for him too? You know what I mean? And then I guess I watched it with with more attention to detail, and I mean the girl says at one point, she talks about the demon who makes trophies of men, and that this is, he's that quote unquote demon or whatever. But I thought that was a pretty cool thing. And also like the coolest part for me is when there's two. When Carl Weathers gets his arm ripped off.
That's pretty awesome.
Or shot off, buzzed off, whatever. And then when Arnold makes that fucking bow.
Yes.
He just basically cuts down a fucking tree. and then it cuts down another tree and makes an arrow out of it. That is fucking rad. That bow could kill anything. It looks so big. Like, how you gotta be as big as, you gotta be like Mr. Universe to pull that thing back. So we don't really have a rating system on this show yet, but Brett and I are going to do our own little personal ratings. But instead of stars, we're going to say scars. So for me, this gets 3 out of 5 scars. I think it's pretty good. Brett, how many would you give it?
You actually took the scars right out of my mouth. I was going to say 3 out of 5. It's just intensely enjoyable. If you analyze it, there's some really great stuff in there. But you can't not have fun while watching this film, and you will definitely get a chuckle, whether it was intended or not. And it's just an all-around fun family movie. Bring the kids.
Stick around. I forgot about that one.
That's another good one. One last thing before we move on. I want to say that I love the human touch of the Predator having pride at the end. That he recognizes that Dutch or Arnold is equal to him, and I feel like he drops everything for a fist fight, and I'm like, that's so bro.
Oh, I agree 100%. He's like, all right, we're gonna fucking hash this out like men. And the funny thing is that, like, so Billy tries to do the same thing, and the Predator's like, nah
bruh.
Nah, I don't take this mask off for anybody.
I like that element. There's no deep philosophical meaning. I just liked it was like a bro. You want to throw down, bro? We're outside the bar. All right, yo. I see your muscles are like mine, bro. Let's go. Let's do this shit.
You are listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-Ray with Bloodbath and Brett667, the neighbor of the beast. Let us know what you think by reaching out to us. We can be found on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, or Facebook by simply searching Blood, Guts, and Blu-Ray. To suggest a film or trailer you think we should discuss, or to comment on this or any other episode, send an email to bloodgutsandblueray@gmail.com. We will always get back to you. Thank you for listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Next, we have The Babadook. Ooh, directed by Jennifer Kent. It's her debut. Came out in 2014. The body count is just one small dog. The budget was $2 million. Its box office was $6.7 million, so it made a decent amount. It's kind of an art house film. Brett, go ahead.
So we're avoiding spoilers in this one, correct?
We're trying to avoid them, but they're an inevitability.
Okay, so the synopsis is going to basically be a few sentences. A woman who is quote-unquote a great mother and her son, who is a quote-unquote big problem, have read a book that has appeared out of nowhere about the Babadook, who comes to you at night, knocks on your door, and you don't want to let him in because he's awful. And somebody lets him in anyway, and the family goes on a journey of fear and torture to an amazing climactic result where a controversial ending leaves us to not really know what really happened, if the Babadook is true or if he's a manifestation of fear and grief.
Before we go into detail about this, William Friedkin, the director of The Exorcist, said that he has never seen a more terrifying movie than The Babadook.
Wow, that's high praise.
That's sort of a big deal. So, jumping off of what Brett said, this movie is about a single mother who has maybe the most annoying kid on the face of the earth.
Quite possibly.
And has a book that reminds me of a pop-up version of the Scary Stories books.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they live in a really depressing gray house. That's like out of a Tim Burton movie. So you just know something bad is going to happen. And really the only way to sympathize with the mother, Amelia, is to just hate this kid And then you actually end up growing up. You grow as the movie unfolds. You start to really like this kid. But he just does some weird things. He throws fits, and he's scared of the boogeyman and the monster under the bed. And
can we also talk about the fact that he could build a fucking crossbow?
He built a crossbow and like a catapult.
Yep.
I think it's awesome that like Jennifer Kent, this is her directorial debut, her like feature length debut, and so it's like, oh wow, now you've made an iconic horror movie.
Instantly.
Now what? She actually trained under Lars von Trier. He's the guy who directed Antichrist, and he's kind of a nut bar too. We'll probably talk about Antichrist at some point, but in a lot of ways, this film is like a commentary on like sleeplessness of single parenthood and how hard it gets, and people look at Amelia like she's fucking crazy before she's actually even possessed. Only 2 people in this whole film are even nice to her.
Yep.
And everyone else, including her bitch of a sister, treats her just like shit, and you just feel terrible for her. Like, her sister is an asshole. She's a terrible person. But I love this movie. It's actually one of my favorites. Do you know, I didn't realize this until I was researching, but that the Babadook is an anagram for a bad book. She just mixed up the words or mixed up the letters, like an evil book. The house, I mentioned before that the house is gray on the inside. It's like really depressing, but that's because Jennifer Kent wanted to film this whole thing in black and white, and then I guess she thought about it more and went with color, but made the interior of the home very drab by painting it different shades of gray, giving it to make you feel claustrophobic. So can we talk for a second about when Amelia is washing the dishes and she sees the Babadook in her neighbor's? That's the scariest part of the whole movie for me. The first time I saw it, I almost shit my fucking pants. I was terrified. Yeah, no, this movie, it really did scare me. I mean, the thing's face is crazy, and there's like signs of it everywhere, like when she goes to the police station and the phone call and everything. Like, it fucking freaks me out. It freaked me out.
Fuck the phone call. The phone call was actually what I was going to rebut and say the scariest part was the Babadook, duck. I was like, okay, no, not comfortable. I need an adult.
Like, I mean, when you're a kid and you're like laying in bed and you're, I guess, afraid of a monster in the closet or whatever, when you're laying there and you feel like the door is opening, that's like some of the most terrifying moments in someone's life. And here it is, like, actually fucking happening to this character, and it's like I'm not a single parent at all, but I immediately put myself in that position. Like, oh my god, like, what am I gonna do? She's laying near, like, she's ready to use her kid as a fucking shield for whatever is entering in her room. And there's that moment of relief when she hears, like, the first time she hears the dog, and then she lets the dog, and she's like, oh my god, I'm getting in my own head. I just gotta close my eyes and go to sleep. And then there's the the bump in the night sort of thing. I thought the movie scared the shit. I remember the first time I watched it, like when it comes at her I think it's like coming at her from the kitchen. You know which part I'm talking about?
Exactly.
It's got its arms out. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
And it's
like out loud.
It's not even walking, it just slides out and it makes that cicada noise as it comes at you. Ugh.
Dude. And then so then she gets possessed, and like the movements that she makes, when I think this woman deserved an Academy Award.
Oh, absolutely.
Because when the movements that she makes in this movie, like when she's yelling at Sam and like cutting the telephone wire and screaming terrible things at him or whatever, there's one part where she like kind of like crooks her head sideways and starts walking toward him, and I'm like, oh, like I got chills. And of course the part where she kicks down the door is crazy. It's just fucking crazy. So for the filming of this, they didn't want to traumatize this kid. So they all the parts. So they told him a kid version of this story, and got him to act out the kid version parts. All the parts where she's yelling at him, he's not actually even in the room.
Oh, that's good. They
had an adult, like an adult actor on his knees, and because you'll notice that it's always. The whole movie is almost told from the perspective of the kid, with it kind of going in and out of the perspective from the mother, but like especially during the possession type attacks, it's totally told from the kid, and so actually it worked out perfect because the camera's like behind him, so you can only make the top of his head out, and here she is fucking screaming her head off at him. And I thought it was just an amazing movie. I still think it's an amazing movie. They actually did make the book. It's out there. A buddy of mine ordered it. He still hasn't gotten it yet. He paid $80 for it.
Damn.
But they made like a limited copy, a limited amount of them, and I think they restarted they started another pressing of it. So they keep him updated as to where his book is at. You know what I mean? I think it's going to end up being signed or something. The good news is, for people who have that preservationist type of, outlook on movies, myself included, Jennifer Kent, the director, owns the rights to this and is never going to allow a sequel, no matter what.
Good.
I don't know if that includes a remake. Because I think a remake would suck. I don't think you allow a remake unless you're sure it's not going to be as good as the original. And then because then people will go out and buy the original. You know what I mean? But I think that the kids' weapons, I want to bring those up because we talked a little bit about them before. They're like a horror movie, fucking Home Alone. And then. I think one of the coolest scenes, one of the coolest effects is when he gets like pulled up the stairs, and then he gets tossed around. I thought that was it was so amazing how they did that. I'm really curious as to how they pulled that off. But what do you have to? I've been hogging the mic here. Go, it's your turn.
Well, there's actually one thing I wanted to talk about. It was kind of my main synopsis of the film, which is a little bit different than yours. Is that first of all, the Babadook does not exist whatsoever. And when you said it was you saw the movie through the kid's eyes, I saw the movie through the mother's eyes. I personally feel from watching the movie, especially with the charcoal on her hands, obviously we all know she made the book. Because she burnt the book and goes to the police station and her hands are covered in charcoal, which you wouldn't have that happen if you burnt a book. You would have that happen if you made a book from pastels. I feel like it's her grief and her anger and her sorrow. And a lot of it is delusion, because you can even see when the child, when you said Sam's getting pulled up the stairs and all these things, it's obvious the mother's throwing him around and he is asking her to not let the Babadook in. He understands the Babadook is her grief, her anger, and also she works as a nurse for elderly. She has access to prescription drugs, which she is very happy to jam in poor Sam's mouth. Also, she was a children's book writer. They mentioned that when she's sitting with all the prima donnas at the birthday party.
Fuck, I didn't even think of any of this. You really broke this down.
So yeah, I did. So at the end of the movie, and spoiler, if you're listening to this, we're going to spoilers at this point. Everything's just so happy, and Dyfus, or whatever the version of it is totally happy with her throwing Sam a birthday party, and there's nobody there. And Sam makes an amazing magic trick where a dove pops out, but she still feeds the Babadook worms, and he asks if the worms are there. And she's been experiencing psychotic delusions this entire film, and for us to believe that this creature or this spirit is okay and content in being in a basement and eating worms, which has never come up in the film at all. And her son suddenly pulls off a magic trick that is absolutely difficult to just make a dove appear. I feel like this movie is still showing she's still upstairs in her mind, and she has accepted the grief and death. I don't know what happened to Sam, but she has accepted the absolute terror and horror in her brain, and she's okay with it now. So I have a feeling Sam does not turn out well at the end of the movie.
That's it. I can't say I disagree with anything you just said. Is a fucking crazy part too is when she like sees the visions of her husband, and then he gets like super serious. He's like, "We want the boy.
Bring me the boy.
Bring me the boy." Like, that's scary, man. This movie is scary.
Well, I mean, and to think about it, maybe she did bring him the boy. Maybe that's the worms in the basement.
Maybe. The worms. The end of the movie. The worms in the basement don't make any sense. That's the only thing that's the only thing that's the only hole in the story. As far as like just being like, front to back, it's just an excellent film. It is.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I give it 4.5 out of 5 stars, or 5 scars. Excuse me, Brett. What do you give it?
I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. That's good.
It works really well. It could be a little vague, and the acting was absolutely phenomenal. I would have liked maybe a little bit better visual. I felt like sometimes the graphics for the Babadook were a little cheaper, and I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. That's my 4 out of 5 scars. Loved it though.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think I've watched it at this point. I mean, including this last time I watched it, I think I've watched it 4 times now. I watched it without my wife, and then like 2 days later, I was like, "You need to see this," and I'll watch it again.
Well, now you get to watch it again with my synopsis and see if you feel a little bit differently, and that it's all inside of her head.
I've seen it so many times. I'm totally. It's definitely gonna happen. I'm totally gonna watch it again. There's no way I can. There's no way I can forget what you said. I don't think that changes my score. But it definitely. I'm on your side with this. But at this point, I totally agree with you. You've swayed me in a matter of minutes, because it makes I never put together, because she does. You're right. She says I used to write children's books mostly, and then she's got charcoal on her hands, and it fucking makes all the sense in the world. It makes all the sense in the world. Amelia is the Babadook. The Babadook. Finkel is fucking Einhorn in this.
Einhorn is fucking Finkel. I need more gum.
So, Troll Hunter. Directed by Andre Overdahl. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. He's Norwegian. Sorry. Came out in 2010, 2011 in the U.S. Body count, 1 person, about 10 trolls. Yeah,
really?
About 10 trolls.
That's nice.
Budget was $3.5 million. Box office was just under $4.2 million. Spoiler alert: Brett and I didn't like this movie.
Can you not tell by our totally
this
enthusiastic
movie was not
remarks?
good, and it's got great ratings on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb and all the ratings, Metacritic and all those other sites. They all loved it. It's got PG-13 rating. Brett fell asleep in 10 minutes?
About 10 minutes, yes, ladies and gentlemen. I tried to watch it, and I fell asleep in my bed for 10 minutes, and I am very happy about that decision, and I would like to thank work and life for letting that happen, because the first 10 minutes I watched, I really literally consider diving out of the window.
I'm going to sum this up, and we'll move on to The Thing, because I think we're going to talk about The Thing at length.
Love it.
But I don't want to go too crazy with this. I fucking hated it. It had some bright spots in it, but it wasn't that good. Basically, what it's about is this film crew is kind of following around this guy who's a troll hunter. They don't know he's a troll hunter at first until they sort of like stumble upon him hunting for a troll. There's these huge bears that are just turning up, and apparently Norwegians take bears very seriously. Some of the good parts was like they had some really nice panoramic shots of Norway, which is awesome. It's fucking beautiful. But they're making a documentary. I don't know why they felt they need to make a documentary about all these bears, but it turned out to be perfect for them because they're following around this guy who hunts trolls. And apparently it's like a huge government conspiracy. There's a troll security force that's like it's clandestine, and the guy who runs the troll security force is like, I'm going to take those tapes away from you. And he doesn't take them away like right away. He waits until the end of the movie and all the characters disappear. Nobody knows exactly where they went. The characters themselves are just weird and awkward. They basically stalk out this guy who's in like special operations at one point. Now he hunts trolls. They basically just annoyed him to the point where he's like, okay, just come with me. I mean, what else am I going to do? They had a cool like Christian angle, so if you were a Christian, the trolls could smell it on you, which I thought was awesome. And there's one part where they have like a Muslim camera woman. She just shows up, and she's actually like kind of cute or whatever. But this Muslim camera woman shows up, and they're like, I don't know if that's a big deal or not. I guess we'll give it a try. The trolls, the effects in this were really terrible CGI, like video game type CGI, and like when you put it against, the real. They really shot this thing out in the woods, and then they put CGI trolls in the middle of the woods, and it just doesn't look right. None of it looks right. They kind of hint, like, I guess a troll bites one of the guys, and they're kind of hinting that he's like changing, like maybe he might become a troll, and so that's like the whole time, like, oh great. So the end is this guy becomes a troll. That's what I'm thinking. But it turns out they like, oh, so the reason all these trolls, because this guy's job is to make sure all the trolls stay in their section of town or whatever. In the woods. And they keep coming out of the woods and fucking with people. So his job is to kill any of the trolls that come out of the woods. And the reason that they're coming out of the fucking woods is because they have rabies. And so they tell this kid, this is the fucking funniest part of the whole movie. So the kid's name is Thomas, and they're like, Thomas, you might have rabies. And his reaction is something ridiculous like, oh, you guys are crazy. I don't have rabies. And that's it. And then and then it's over. I mean, they get chased around by a troll a little bit, like a huge troll. This movie sucked. Everything about it sucked. I mean, it has like I think it's got 5 stars on Shudder. It has like 82% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got like an 85% rating on Metacritic. I hated it. I fucking hated it. I gave it 1.5 scars because I've seen some. I'll never give anything a 0. And it takes a lot for me to get to, I guess, a half a scar. But it had some bright spots. It was, some of it was clever. I thought it would be different. The reason I picked it was because I'm like, oh, trolls. I don't really see too many movies about trolls. This could be fucking awesome. And it turned out to suck. Whatever. Brett, I'm guessing.
I was mad when I saw the image, when I pulled up the Netflix image, because just like you said, I was like, that looks like a Guardian from PlayStation 2 on top of a very exposed street with trees. This looks terrible.
Yeah.
Like, did somebody make a deviant art of this and then turn it into a movie? Like, what the fuck? And I'm so glad I fell asleep because I did not dream of Troll Hunter.
Yeah.
So I give it non-existent scars because I didn't watch it, so I'm not going to judge it. I trust in Bloodbath, but I'm not going to go ahead and clamor to watch this and on my own time. No, thank you. I'll just pass.
Smart move.
You are listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-Ray with Bloodbath and Brett667, the neighbor of the beast. We are dedicated to bringing you the show across your favorite medium. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube. Please send all suggestions to bloodgutsandblueray@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.
All right, and the main event here. This was Brett's pick, and I'm really glad he did it because I haven't seen the movie in years. The Thing, directed by John Carpenter, 1982. Body count 16, budget 15 million, box office 19.6 million. It was actually a box office flop and a critical flop too, which is amazing to me.
Shocking.
Well, the thing is, so it came out the same day as Blade Runner, and it came out, and both of those movies came out around the same time as E.T. So like E.T. just was like a virus. Like the whole everybody went out to see that movie, and so it basically just swallowed everything up. It had like gravitational pull. It was yeah. So but like the way it gets shit on today especially, or not today, but back then, but today everybody thinks it's this like cultural masterpiece, and they're not wrong. If somebody said to me The Thing is my favorite movie, I'd be like, good for you. That's awesome. That's a great movie. That's a great. It's, you know, the other thing too is like, if I was to make, because I really don't like CGI. I'm not a big fan of it. It always looks fake to me. And I think that this is one of those movies where you can look at the special effects and say, like, and when somebody is making the argument that CGI is better than like actual real special effects, you just go watch The Thing. Go watch The Thing, and then you tell me that because it's insane. So I'm sorry. Go give your synopsis. I hijacked that. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. Before we lose that point, though, you know who made a big comment about that and actually modeled a movie after The Thing was Quentin Tarantino.
I believe it, yeah.
When he did Grindhouse, what was the zombie flick he did? It was Death Proof and Planet Terror. So when he did Planet Terror, he utilized the same techniques, which was the reverse recording, where they would suck everything back in and then flip the recording back so that the tentacles would come out and everything. In that, he had mentioned his inspiration was the 70s version of The Thing, or 80s version of The Thing with Kurt Russell, because he loved it. It's still gruesome in 2016. It's still like, it sends chills up my spine. Okay, so synopsis. Scientists are up in it's the Antarctic, correct? It's the Antarctic. They are obviously scientists, researchers, pilots, the entire crew you need to do research, and Norwegians out of nowhere come with a helicopter shooting at a Siberian husky for no reason, and very, very funnily blow themselves up with a grenade, which it was very
hilarious.
It was
fucking
hysterical.
Hilarious. I died.
It was like Benny Hill type of funny. We're like, like it was just, I just laughed. But the laughter stops because the husky turns out to be a variation of an alien creature that they dug up on a crash-landed site from a saucer. And the thing can mimic any human being or any sentient creature whatsoever. And it wants to infect every host, engulf everybody, take them over, create a replica, and the whole entire crew comes to this realization, and nobody knows who could potentially be a thing. which of course leads up to a monumental firefight, explosions, gunfire, questions, and even the ending leaves you wondering if the thing is truly dead.
I think maybe the best way. So what I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a couple fun facts about this movie, and then do you want to just kind of go through some of our favorite special effects scenes? Because I think the story is good. Don't get me wrong. I think the story is fantastic, but what really makes this movie for me is the special effects, and that's what makes it so terrifying and fucking scary. So the early drafts of this film were actually written by Tobe Hooper, who directed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. None of his drafts actually made it into the film, but I guess some of the idea extrapolations were from there. Movie is actually a remake too.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes.
From Another World, 1951. But that takes place at the North Pole. This takes place in Antarctica. Carpenter, I guess, improvised that shape-shifting copycat alien because he thought it would be scarier. So, and it was.
And he was
totally right.
Yep.
So, that movie, The Thing from Another World, is actually playing on the TV in Halloween. Did you know that? I think it's the part where Laurie Strode is babysitting that kid, Tommy, and he's sitting there watching movies, and that's the movie that's playing in the background.
I wouldn't know.
As I mentioned, it came out same week as E.T. and Blade Runner. It's better than both those movies, and I love Blade Runner, so that says a lot. It's a little bit better than Blade Runner. It's not a lot better, but it's a little bit better. This was Carpenter's 8th movie. It's his first with a major studio, and it's actually his favorite movie of all the movies that he's made. So, got killed by critics, banned in Finland, and during some parts it took 50 people to fucking operate the special effects of The Thing. So, wow. Dude, the special effects in this movie are insane. They're monumental. I mean, so the part where the poor dog, you just feel so sad for the dogs. They just get mauled in this movie. I mean, and then they become part of this fucking monster. It's so bad. The dog part is fucking crazy. What's your favorite one?
My favorite scene, without question, I mean, other than the ending, is the blood scene. The testing of the blood. Dude,
it was genius.
Fucking genius.
How did you think that up? So there's one part I remember writing down that sort of kind of, there's a little bit of a hole in here. The Wilford Brimley, who plays, what was his name? Blair's he's the one they put in the tool shed, right? But he's the one that deduces that this thing is a shapeshifter in just a few hours. He's got it figured out. He's like, you know what? He just eyeballed it, and he's like, shapeshifter. Don't ask me why. And that's the only hole that I saw. But then he just goes fucking buck shit. And then there's one of my favorite effects actually has him when he basically puts his hand in another dude's face. And it's not like a talk to the hand type motion. It is literally driving my fingers into your head. Oh,
into your cheek. When he goes in the cheeks, it's like
insane. Yep. The ending was fucking crazy. The blood scene was crazy. The part where I think the best scene is when they do the defibrillator on the guy.
Mm-hmm. Just thinking that.
It just opens up and then pulls and then you see his head walk away.
With the tongue, which when you were saying with the special effects, I was mind-boggled at the time that they can create an animatronic that can create an alien tongue that was dragging that head across the ground. I was just completely mind-fucked. It was fantastic.
When also the blood scene where I forget it wasn't Fuchs. I forget the other guy's name, but he
Fuchs had the yellow tinted glasses, right? Wasn't that Fuchs?
And he burns up in the snow or something.
Yeah.
The other guy that like they test his blood and it's like it basically lashes out irrationally at them and tries to kill them.
And he just starts like seizuring in the chair.
And then he eats windows. And that part was fucking crazy because he's just throwing him all over the room like a rabid pit bull. It's fucking insane.
No, he turns into a Venus flytrap and just smacks his head and just fucking waves him around in the air.
It's so cool. So what's your take on the ending of this?
Okay, my take on the ending is this. Childs is another thing.
Definitely.
Because, and this is my reasoning, and in case anybody wants to attack our social media, I've looked into this because I've always thought Childs was a thing, but I didn't have any proof. And I love this fan theory, and I will talk about it because it's great. When Kurt Russell, McCready? When McCready sits down after blowing everything up in the world, he sits down and has a bottle of scotch, which he does not drink. And Childs comes out, and he hands him the bottle. Now, McCready has been throwing Molotov cocktails and explosions everywhere. He has not been carrying scotch for his own pleasure. My belief, and from what I've read, that was actually gasoline, and he was making Molotov cocktails, so he hands it to the mimic, a.k.a. the thing that's Childs, to drink because the mimic would not recognize the difference between scotch and gasoline. Childs drinks it and smiles.
Yep. Well, also
he's a thing. He's got to be a thing. You don't end a movie like that unless you want. I mean, obviously, John Carpenter made a great choice by leaving us a cliffhanger. In my belief, Childs is definitely the thing. And you know what? McCready might be as well. Who the fuck knows? Because of his ripped up jacket, they don't really go into it. It doesn't make sense, but there's still questions.
There's the also McCready when they're talking, they're breathing. McCready is like you could see his breath. You can't.
Yep, I read this too.
You can't see Child's breath.
Nope.
Yeah, I did some fan reading, and actually Carpenter said that. He mentioned that. I saw something. He's like, I think it's very, very clear that it is Childs and not. But it makes. I heard that too. I think I saw that what you mentioned. I think I saw on like Watch Mojo or something on online because they do like a top 10 list, and and I think it was like best endings. I cannot believe that this movie got panned. Like it doesn't make any sense to me.
Who was really like they hated it? The Rotten Tomatoes. It makes me sick.
Well, no, Rotten Tomatoes did fine on Rotten Tomatoes, but it did like all the big critics. Because think about it, it's 1982, no internet, big like the Roger Ebert and all these people that are. I mean, Roger Ebert's the only name I could really remember. But all the big newspapers were like just shitting all over this movie, like it's fucking gore for gore's sake. The guy who actually made the original movie was like, don't go see this movie. John Carpenter was really upset about it because he's like, I thought I did a really good job. And guess what? He did. It's fucking great. Kurt Russell was perfect in this movie. Craig David was perfect. Every member of this cast was fucking perfect.
Well, and one of the things that made them perfect, which is a great segue, there weren't stereotypes. They all felt like real characters in the time that they were in. And the actual positions and characters they played, obviously, Kurt Russell, he's going to be the more gruff pilot. But everybody who played their respective positions and parts in the actual complex, they felt real. They weren't overacted. They weren't dramatic. They were they had real human responses, and that fed into the terror because nobody was just like, well, we should kill this person because I'm an alien and I think that you guys should all die. Like, they were all scared. And that's what made the Thing even scarier, is because he can mimic human fear.
And it's just there. I mean, it's a total commentary on like mob rules and paranoia and all. Like there's just it's all a great litmus test for, I guess, all those things. I don't know if litmus test was the right word. And I love the part. First off, I want to talk for a second because there are a couple of stupid parts of this movie.
There are.
The stupidest thing is a guy on roller skates.
Oh yeah, the cook.
Terrible. You don't even know what happens to him. You just assume that he blows up or freezes to death. You have no idea.
Oh, they never show. Yeah, that's right. He's one of the last survivors, and you never really find out what happened to him.
Then there's Kurt Russell's old prospector hat that he wears in like the first 45 minutes of the movie.
Sideways, by the way.
Sideways. But the best part is when he's playing against the chess game and he's like, ugh, and he just throws his glass of scotch in it. That's awesome. This is a great commercial for J&B Scotch, by the way. The whole movie is just J&B.
Oh, the whole entire movie, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I give it 4 out of 5.
I give it 5 out of 5.
All right. I respect it. I definitely respect it.
And I'm certainly biased, but I have watched this movie probably 20 times in my life. I have always been scared. I've always enjoyed it, and for some reason, I always tend to forget who's the Thing because they don't make it like glaringly obvious like movies do these days. And I'm always surprised in one way or the other, and I can watch it any day of the week. Just 5 out of 5 for me. 5 scars out of 5.
So John Carpenter I only have a few movies that I would consider a 5 out of 5, and John Carpenter has one of them in there. Well, it's not really one, it's actually 2. So if I watch the Halloween movies, the first 2 by themselves, they're 4s. But if I watch them together, because the first 2 make more sense together, like back to back. I feel like that's how you have to watch them. Mm-hmm. And if you watch them back to back, they're 5. If you just like watch the first one and then you're like, eh. But that's the first way I saw it. I rented them from the video store. You know what I mean? So I would rent 2 videos because I worked at a hardware store which is right next to a video store. So I would take my money when I was like in high school, I was a freshman, and I just would walk over there and rent videos and then ride my bike home and watch, horror movies. Mm-hmm. Basically horror movies, because that was the only time I'd go to the video store without my parents there. And they'd be like, "You're not going to watch Ghoulies."
Yeah, I am.
We're not watching that. And I would just buy them, put them in my backpack. They would never see them. And I would go over to a friend's house and we would watch Halloween or something crazy. So I love this movie, though. I mean, 4 out of 5 that's pretty good for me because I'm pretty hypercritical on a lot of things. So
well, you did say that the Babadook was one of the all-time scariest movies you've ever seen. You give it a 4.5. So a 4 out of 5 is pretty high for you.
So, but my rating system though, like obviously, if it scares the fucking shit out of me, it's gonna score high. You know what I mean? But it also, if it intrigues me or if it's like funny, if it's like funny and scary and cool, then it doesn't have to be terrifying for me to. Like loaded with jump scares or whatever for me to give it a 5.
Well, that's why you and I are a little bit different. Where I like the intrigue, the thought process, the indecision about what really happened. I kind of get sucked into that more myself. So if it's scary, it's scary. That's great. But I like to actually think and process and try to, the Thing has made me think about, like, when we look into the fan theories, what do you think happened? What do I think happened? Let's talk about it. When a movie's like that, plus Kurt Russell equals high score. It's just how it goes, because that movie was so... And we didn't really touch on it, but the acting in that movie,
Very good.
every bit player that was in there felt so real. They didn't feel like an actor. They felt like they had their own intricacies. They had their own flaws. They had their own whatever it may be. They just felt like real characters in a real situation with a completely unrealistic creature who scientifically could be realistic. Totally fucking scary.
Do you know what's a legitimately scary part too? The part where they go underground and they find that Blair has been building that ship.
Holy shit!
That's
yes.
a fucking scary part without any gore. And that's another like, and the music that drops behind there. Like there's some I wrote it down. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but I just remember it like the moment that score just jumps in at that very second, which is like you go down there and you're like, holy fuck. He's been dismantling every bit of infrastructure that we have here to build this fucking spaceship and infect the rest of the world.
That he initially destroyed as a guise. He'd initially destroyed it as a guise for you to not think that he was a thing. And
it's insane.
We didn't even really touch too. Another really scary part is, this is going to sound silly, the acting of the dog in the beginning. You watch that dog and you're like, that's a shifty-eyed fucking dog.
Yeah.
And that dog, the way it slowly, they trained it to slowly walk around the corners and walk into rooms, and the lighting, the way they shadowed the dog and everything. And even if you've never seen the movie before, you're like, there's something really fucked up about that dog.
You think also there's something really fucked up about the dog handler too.
Yep.
Because you're like, he's just not a people person. Maybe he's the thing. I thought that the whole time, and he turns out to not be a thing.
He turns out not to be the thing. What a great twist.
We definitely just spoiled it for someone.
We've given like 5 spoiler warnings so far. I mean, if you haven't seen the thing and you're listening to this now, we apologize. Watch it. It's still going to be awesome regardless. If you could even know. Bloodbath and I already know what happens, and we still enjoy the movie, so go watch it.
Everybody's a thing except for Kurt Russell. There you go.
That's not a guarantee, though. That's not a guarantee.
Pretty sure.
His jacket was found with the big rips in it. I mean, we don't totally know.
Fairly certain.
I'm fairly certain too, but it's possible that he's the grand thing, and his whole entire idea was to make everybody else kill each other so he can thrive.
I don't know. I just like Kurt Russell too much. I don't want him to be the thing.
I'm not saying, ladies and gentlemen who are listening to Horror Business right now, I'm not saying I want that to be true. I want Kurt Russell to be the human badass that he is. Just saying. You never know.
Oh, real quick fun fact. So usually John Carpenter scores his own films. He scored Halloween. But he didn't this time around. Because I guess he had a huge budget with the studio. He got Ennio Morricone to do it. He did a lot of westerns and stuff. And the soundtrack was nominated for a Golden Razzie, which is like, you know what that is, right?
Yeah, I know what a Razzie is.
Which I think is fucking dumb, because I wrote down a bunch of times like, this soundtrack's perfect.
Soundtrack's phenomenal. Why are you going to give it a Razzie?
It totally conveys exactly what you needed it to convey.
It does everything it's supposed to do. I don't understand why that could ever be put in for a Razzie.
People are fucking stupid.
A raspberry.
This is like, but you gotta think about it. At the time, E.T. just came out. So they're just like that is like a big motion. It's a Spielberg movie. It's huge. And they're like, and this is like a subspecies of fucking movie compared to that. Like,
yeah,
but why can't all of our aliens have glowing bellies and be nice and phone home and dress in a fucking hooded, and dress in a fucking hooded sweatshirt? It's not. Hey, and I like E.T. It's a good movie. Don't get me wrong.
It's a little overrated. Let's be honest here.
It's a little overrated, but as a kid, I thought it was wonderful. It was magical for me as a kid. Like I was very young. My mom had it on video cassette, so like she would just toss it in whenever she wanted me to be quiet, and of course I did. So I don't know.
You little conformist.
Yeah, well, it is. It is. It's true.
No, it's a great movie.
So I think that's gonna wrap it up. What movies are we going to talk about in the next episode?
Well, I was kind of thinking a classic and a goof was kind of my choices. I was thinking the Amityville Horror, because I hear it's fantastic. I've never seen it before.
The original, right?
The original. No stupid remakes. We're talking about the original.
We'll do a remake episode at some point, though.
It will be very sad. Which, by the way, we actually, unbeknownst to us, we kind of made a "You Don't Know Who's Human or Not" podcast for our first one. You don't really know who's going to be who. It's very suspenseful in our podcast today. With you don't really know who the mother is in Babadook. You don't really know what the alien creature is in Predator, and you don't really know who's going to kill you in The Thing, and you don't really know Troll Hunter because you didn't watch it.
What do you the mother in Babadook? What do you mean?
You don't, like I said, you don't really know if she's the actual Babadook.
I mean, you convinced me that she made the Babadook thing up.
I was just thinking that our first podcast is a "You Don't Really Know" podcast.
Oh, I get what you're saying. I thought you were saying that we were doing a bad job, basically.
Oh, no. I was saying the movies we picked were the "You Don't Really Know" movies.
I got you. Okay. I got what you're saying now.
Yes, this has been a terrible podcast. I'll never do this again. This was awful. Bye. Horror business is over.
One and done. All right, okay. So you said Amityville, which I think is a good pick. Solid pick.
Because I've never seen it before, and I was thinking Dead Snow, the movie about zombie Nazis.
Dead Snow's a good one. I like that one.
Never seen it either, so I'm really excited to watch it because I hear it's great and horrible all on its own. So those are my picks.
All right, so then my picks, I kind of knew what I wanted to pick beforehand, but I was kind of gonna go with what you said, and it actually worked out perfect. So I'm gonna pick It Follows, which came out like last year. Fucking phenomenal movie.
It Follows, okay.
And The Return of the Living Dead.
Ooh.
So it is not
the original Living Dead.
No. Return of the Living Dead is not a sequel to Night of the Living Dead. It is not. They actually reference the movie in the movie. Like, you ever see Night of the Living Dead? It's a true story. So it's kind of like it's in their like multiverse or whatever.
Okay.
And it's definitely one of my favorites, and I'm so excited to talk about it. I watched it earlier this week. I will watch it again and again and again. It's one of those movies I can put on all the time. And so yeah, we'll do that. So we're gonna do Return of the Living Dead, It Follows, the original Amityville Horror. We shouldn't even say that. We should just say the Amityville Horror. And
the real one, yes.
And if you have to ask whether or not it's the remake, then
wasn't Ryan Reynolds in the remake?
Yeah, it was so bad, dude.
I didn't see it, but
it's a Ryan Reynolds commercial. He just has his shirt off the whole time.
Well, that was before he was an actual actor, so we got to give the kid credit.
And then what was the other one? You just said it.
Dead Snow.
I can't wait. I love Dead Snow.
I can't wait to see it. I
can't wait.
I've heard rave reviews.
Oh, dude, this is gonna be a good one. We're gonna have these are 4 movies that I like a lot, so this is gonna be awesome.
Yeah, no Troll Hunter. Fuck Troll Hunter.
No Troll Hunter. We'll do an all bad one. We'll do an all bad one at some point, but we'll.
If anybody could see my face right now, they would know I'm not really excited about that statement.
No. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for coming in, Mr. Bloodbath. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-Ray with Bloodbath and Brett667, the neighbor of the beast. Written by Brett and Bloodbath. Edited and produced by Bloodbath. Music has been graciously provided by the Slasher Film Festival Strategy from album Psychic Shield, available now on Death Waltz Originals. Artwork and logo have been provided by Bruce Tedford. Blood, Guts, and Blu-Ray is available on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube. Be sure to follow us on Facebook as well as @Blood, Guts, Blu-Ray on Twitter, @Bloodguts and Blu-Ray on Instagram, and visit our Tumblr page by going to bloodgutsandblu-ray.tumblr.com. For any questions regarding the show, advertising, or anything else, please send an email to bloodgutsandblueray@gmail.com. Thanks again. Get possessed.